Hey, welcome. All my right thinkers, thanks for tuning in to check out your boy, P Farm. Thinking right out here in my lab, and I'm in the book. Ooh, we about to get some good stuff. Now I'm starting to cherry pick because there's gonna be some fluff here and there, and I don't do fluff. So as I go through the book, I'm gonna start picking out the good stuff, the meat and potatoes I call it. So this one right thing, let's talk about myths. I just gave a lesson a while back, but just a different look at myths. What is myth? What's the purpose of myth? Okay, that's what I'm gonna break down this whole. I got 2 pages of information, 2.5 pages of information about myth. Some fluff in here. I'm gonna sidestep that and just keep the good stuff. Let's rock. Radism 25 rules. Live by storytelling. Story with a message. There's a message in my stories for life. I give you life lessons. You tune in to receive them. I appreciate you. We got a good thing going. Let's do what we do. Right thinking mission is to enlighten, inspire, educate, and motivate you, the individual, to a higher spiritual level of enlightenment. Right thinking way of life through mental and spiritual discipline practice daily will help and guide you to obtain your goal of reaching spiritual enlightenment, aka know thyself. My mission is that all right thinkers know thyself. If you're a right thinker. Your goal is to know thyself. See where we go with this? Let's get that together. So I asked the question, do you know you? You will not get through. That's what I do. It's rhetorical, but if you know how to answer it, please tune in. I got you. A person who knows not and knows not that they know not is foolish. Disregard them. A person who knows not and knows that they know not is simple, but you can teach them. That's why I do what I do. For you. Appreciate you too. Stay tuned. I got more for you. A person who knows not and believe and think that they know is dangerous, avoid them. I do. A person who knows and knows not that they know is spiritually asleep, I can awaken them. I'm the spiritual alarm clock here to wake you up with knowledge of self. That's what I do for you. A person who knows and knows that they know is wise. Follow them. All these persons reside in you. Right thinkers, know thyself. And two, might not be true. We dealing with myth, the hidden language for wisdom. There's teachings in myths. Myth has an important role. Let me break it down for you. Again, I did this lesson a while ago, but this is in the book, so I gotta try to get it out. I'm gonna cut out the fluff because there's a whole bunch of other stuff here that I ain't gonna deal with. We're gonna just deal with myth. They got myth and epic. Did the lesson ago, so I'm gonna do that again. But let's talk about the myth. In ancient Egyptian spirituality, is based on the teachings of the goddess is closely related with the myth of what? There are 2 specific myths in which the goddess Aset is especially highlighted. They got a myth called the myth of Ra and Aset. She did work to Ra. I ain't going there. I got that coming up. I don't know. I'm debating. Do I want to get into that or not? But no, let's talk about the myth right now. But and she's involved in 2-1. All right, she's a bad girl. And this one, the myth must be understood first of all before the mystical psychological teachings may be understood. Okay. Now, in order to begin our journey of self-discovery, we need to know the origins of mystical wisdom. Again, it comes from the glorious myth, again, of the goddess. These contain profound mystical teachings. When you study them profoundly, you will get and understand the teachings for those who know how to decode the myth. I gave that lesson on how to understand and decode the myth. There's a lesson that we taught. Remember when we was kids, we watched what I know grew up watching the little fairy tales with the always the Roman one, Epictetus, one of the Roman whatever. But they always do they tell you the story. They tell you and then ask you what was the moral of the story. The whole purpose is to watch and understand go through. A lot of people did the who did it, which who you think did it, which one was guilty, this, that. But I did to get you to stay conscious and focused on what's going on. So if you stay focused, read the myth and understand it for what it is, you will interpret it and understand it. And then more importantly, the goal is to implement what you're learning from the myth. That's the manifestation of learning what the myth is about. That's wisdom. it comes from the glorious myth of the goddess, okay? And they contain profound mystical teachings. Again, that's what right thing philosophy does. Decode the myths for you and understand their psycho-mythological purpose to get you to enlighten, inspire, educate, and motivate you to be your best self. They are important keys to being able to read mythology, hear the story, understand. Like a kid, they come and read you the fairy tale. There's a mythological story, but there's a moral to the story. The idea that you understand the story. What is myth? Again, we have a few definitions. We're going to do Funk and Wagnall. We're going to do the Heritage Dictionary. I think I got in Random House. They all have their perspective on the myth. And they all right. Why? It's few different ways that you can interpret it. And they all come pretty much out the same. That's why. So let me break it down. First of all, we must begin by gaining and trying to get a deeper understanding of what mythology is, and then to understand its purpose. Sorry, calm down. This is teaching, sorry. Now, with this understanding, one may be now able to undertake the study of the Osirian myth. We call it the story of life, where the brother killed the brother and the wife put them back together, found him, and she had a baby. And that's the whole story, okay? One of the stories. But there's a message in the story. The moral of the story is in other mystical story, but it's able to be understood with the psycho-spiritual implications. Is giving you knowledge about what I call my life lessons. I don't use myth to tell my life stories. Why? I can use all my examples. Me, my dad, my mom, anybody who I know, I use them as examples. So I don't have to make nothing up. That's why. So this is not mythological. Mine is real, okay? But studying the Osirian myth, they're there for a reason. Everybody plays a role, and they have their purpose in your psyche that you can understand. That's the difference, okay? Be like them, emulate them, but because they're all part of you. That's the name of the game. They were teaching you how to use your brain, all right? But the implications which are being imparted through the myth, the story, what's the purpose, what's the reason? All of them have a different purpose and reason. According to the American Heritage Dictionary, they define a myth as follows. They got three categories with three definitions. First one, a traditional story presenting supernatural beings, ancestors, or heroes that serve as primordial types in a primitive view of the world. Okay, next one. A fictitious or imaginary story, person, or thing. They say myths ain't nothing. Okay, a bunch of made up stuff. Okay, misinterpretation, but that's theirs. The third one for them is a false belief. So to them, a myth is not true. A myth is a lie, made up stories. Big misinterpretation by American Heritage Dictionary. I won't subscribe to your definitions. All three of these to me is just wrong. I got my own prescriptive perspective and understanding about myths and the way they are. And from I'm giving your definition. And this, I don't agree with your definition. Moving on, this ain't about that, I guess. Let me get the lesson. All right, back to the lesson. But again, American Heritage Dictionary defines, okay, that was the definition for the myths. Okay, myth. Now they got a definition define mythology. This is their definition of mythology, meaning the study of myths. Okay, a body of myths about the origin and history of people. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? That's vague as all get up. That don't tell me nothing personally. I don't get that. Don't define nothing. Second one is a study of myths. Yeah, we know that's the definition of mythology. I get that. But your interpretation of myth, a little bit to be desired. All right, now let's go to Random House. See what they say. They got a nice little long paragraph here about The Random House Encyclopedia defines, oh, they're going to define mythology. Okay, let's see what they say. Mythology is a body of myth, yeah, calm down, or traditional stories passed down. We call it folklore, okay, verbally passed down, dealing with gods and legendary heroes. Okay, the mythology of a people serves as serves to present their world view, again according to their culture, as I said, their people, and their explanations of natural phenomena, their religious and other beliefs. Mythological literature includes what the Greek they called the Iliad or the Odyssey. In Scandinavia, they had the Edda, the Edda, and in India, they had the Ramayana. And in the Babylonians, they had the Epic of Gilgamesh. Every culture had a hero, supernatural, superhero, demigod, god, whatever, but everybody had their story, and that's fine. That's the purpose of the myth, to teach a certain story about to a certain people, their people. Why would you have a black people with a white god? Just want to put that out there. That's one of the issues I had. But the Babylonians had Gilgamesh, amongst others. But you have various interpretations of mythology, and that's fine. And it have been made by anthropologists such as Sir James Frazer and Claude Levi Strauss, the gene maker. Yeah. In the literature, myths have been used as the basis for, ready, poetry, storytelling, fairy tales, plays, drama, both drama and comedic, okay, and other writings. So the mythology had been around to tell stories for a long time. The Greeks pride themselves on mythology. They tell you that everything they do is mythological. So they can pretty much present stories that just had their way with it. And I learned that first. So when I got to Egypt, I already knew this. But that's what the Greeks was doing. I learned it from them. The names are different, but this is what I learned. So thinking right when I got to Egypt taught me how to use that. So I got that information from both sides. Again, yeah. Let me skip half the fluff. I'm not doing epics. I could care less about that right now. We're dealing with myths. So let's get over here to mystical mythology. Is much like a metaphor in that its stories and the characters are designed, listen, to provide you as a reference towards something other than the story itself. The moral of the story, the characters that play their role, they have parts to play and roles to play for the story itself. This means that there is an exoteric meaning I'm presenting you as it is, and the top layer, so to speak, the front. Okay, in business, where I come from, in the hood, every store was a front for illegal doers. So I had a candy store, restaurant, boutique, and that was all to just camouflage what I was really doing. Hence, front. That's the exoteric presentation of what I was doing, meaning which refers to what the events and the circumstances in the story, okay, which may or may not had a basis or a fact or really happened. It don't make a difference. Did it happen? Was it real? When I'm telling the right thing in philosophy, I don't use mythological people. I use me and all my family and friends. That's the difference. I've made that purposely. So this right here is based on what? Real life events, not mythology. But in also what I teach is an esoteric, or what they call mystical meaning, the true underlying meaning, which refers to what? The deeper teachings or a hidden message which transcends the boundaries of said event in the story. Through the myth, many ideas which are not easily explained. Remember, myth is unexplainable. I told you that in the story I gave that lesson a while ago. But in rational, logical terms, can be freely explored and elucidated in an imaginative and in colorful ways. They do it, they present it, like Malcolm said, by any means necessary. The method to teach, ideas to teach the story, tell a story that you can learn something from. That's all. Mystical myths are particularly important. Why? Because they serve a purpose, is the point to where the answers to the most important questions of every individual may be found, where everyone is searching for what? For the answers to what? Questions such as, you ready? Who am I really? Is this all that I am? Where do I come from? And more importantly, what is my purpose here on earth? And you have a right to ask those questions. The question is their answers to those questions. Yeah. Through myths and their teachings, when studied profoundly by the sages and the saints, now can take full flight, free of what? Constraints of what we call normal literary writings. Therefore, the myths are an ideal way, what? To impart, to teach spiritual truths, which transcends the ordinary human experiences. Why? You have to have it for yourself. That's what we call it, the mystical experience. The awakening, yeah, all that enlightenment. Why? Because now you become a different person mentally, philosophically, and psychologically. That's a change. That's a transformation. Just like the caterpillar, you have to have it for yourself. We're born ignorant. We shouldn't die ignorant. Okay, a lot of us do. Okay, why? We didn't learn. So we're here to learn. So guess what? They got to come back. Like repeating grades in school. If you're senior in high school and you failed classes, unless you made those classes up in summer school, you wasn't graduating. Why? You gotta go back and get the right grades right. Simple. It's life is the same thing on that concept. Why? If you don't know yourself, your conscious of who you were in your body will physically die, and your conscious will go with it. Only thing we live on is your spirit, but it has no conscience, so it can't go home. It don't know who it is. So it gotta go find another body and hope it get somebody who wakes up and makes it so it can go home. That's just my philosophical concept. All right, but I can break it down and explain it to you. Now, what you believe and what you like, I don't care about that. Moving on. Where we at? Okay, the essence of all creation. And so, therefore, for each individual human being, they're able to transcend. They're able to know what themselves. They're able to become one with God. Everybody has the same opportunity. But the ordinary bounds of what ignorant mental perceptions and misunderstandings, those people will die. However, all human experiences, listen carefully, all human experiences occur in and through what? The mind. This thing right here. The mind. This thing right here on your shoulders. Okay, where we at? So therefore, the heart of all human experiences, may they be pain or pleasure, is what? Is rooted where? In the mind, aka the psyche. Everything is mental, all is mind, okay? And the purpose of mythology is to bridge, there we go, what? That gap between what? The heart and the mind, the limited human mind, and that which is what transcends all. Thus, mythology must be fully understood in the light of its psychological and mystical implications and what it can do. So here we will introduce a new term. Heard it before, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to tell you again. Psychomythology. That's trying to get your head right. They're trying to get you to think right. Well, that's my job, but they're trying to do the same thing. I'm just telling you straight out. I'm trying to get you to think right. Use it for the purposes intended. This is the most sophisticated machinery known to man, and it don't come with instructions, just instructors. So what? Everybody got the same opportunity to learn it. That's why the instructors had to learn it too. I had to master the right thing before I could teach it. See where I'm going with that? Okay. You get mine from the classroom. Moving on. The study of mystical stories is important. Why? in order to gain what we call insight into the psychomythology, the mind game, psychological implications of mythology for the spiritual transformation. The mind have to change of the individual, which leads now to the what? Attainment of true enlightenment. That's the goal, and that's what the mind will do. If you put it in the position, it'll do what it's supposed to do. Enlightenment, what? Implies the attainment of an expanded state of consciousness. That means you learn something. Not what you thought, not what, no. You learn something. You are enlightened. Termed as what? Dilation, expansion of the heart in ancient Egyptian yoga, right? The philosophy, in which there is a full and perfect awareness of one's existence beyond the mind and the body. So the term psycho is used here must be understood as for what? More than just simply that which refers to the mind. Psycho must be understood now to mean everything that constitutes human consciousness in all of its stages and states. The three stages of consciousness: unconscious, subconscious, and consciousness. So therefore, psycho implies the conscious, subconscious, and the unconscious working. Boy, I'm good. In the mind. That's how it's broken down. And mythology refers to what? Giving you the codes, delivering you a message and ideas, directives, and beliefs, etc. But that effect of the psyche through what? Your conscious, subconscious, and unconscious aspect of one's mind, of the individual, specifically what? Those effects which result in your spiritual transformation. You're now thinking right. You used to believe that you were thinking. Now you're thinking right with the psycho understanding of what's being presented from the mythology. You're starting to learn. That is what they call transpersonal. Every individual is personal. The transformation is personal. It's called transpersonal of the transcendental change in your personality of the individual, which leads to self-discovery of what? The transcendental reality of existence, aka know oneself. Everything I'm trying to get to you is to do just that, to get you to know. So taking it home, a myth should never be understood literally or taken literally. Right there. And you Bible thumpers, please stop doing that. And you will learn a lot more from that Bible. And my pastor does it well. It's a tool to teach and enhance and get you to do what you need to do. If it follow and instruct the right way, a good person, it will work. Trust me. But this would be like going to a theater to see a fictional movie or reading a fantasy novel and believing it's real. Come on, we way past that. You got to be smarter than that. That's all I'm saying. And if y'all Bible thumpers love you, but if you understood and interpreted the Bible, what it was intended, you'd be a lot better off. And we wouldn't be at odds. Why? Because we'd be in the same wavelength. Hello? Yet, as a movie or a novel may be based on real events. My life story, right thing philosophy is based on my life story. All of it based on me. Yeah, simple. I can tell you that. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I know what it is. That's what I'm telling you. But I mastered the concept of Shitanetta, Smatawi, and Maya philosophy on their terms. Now I'm teaching it on mine. And it's based, some of them are based on what? Real events and carry really an important esoteric message, which is being imparted through the medium, through what? The actors, the role players. Everybody see Denzel Washington, swear to God, he Malcolm X. You say Malcolm X, they think Denzel Washington. See? Why? Because the role he played was so convincing, they see him in there. And as an actor, that's their job, is to convince you of a lie and make you believe it's real. They go move. We sit there and cry and go through they get your heart straight, sad stories, all that good, happy, and all that good stuff. It's for entertainment. It's to entertain you. sometimes to enlighten you, inspire and motivate you. But these are the things that myth does for you. It's a learning tool. And you see the actors, the plot to the story, so on, in mythical myths, no matter how it's presented, are not to be understood as being completely baseless either. Like my man, the definition, just factitious. No. There's some truth behind them. Simple as that. Nor is having been to put together purely for what? Entertainment. Misinterpretation again. Myths, taking it home from here. Myths again. Myths are symbols which speak to people in a psycho-symbolic way. For those who can interpret the esoteric teaching, that's what the difference between operative and speculative. Some people can understand and interpret it. Some people can manually do it. That's the difference. When you can do both, that's self-mastery. And the psychological language that the myth brings of the myth can lead one to understand and have their own experience and the transcendental truths which cannot be easily expressed in words. Hence, we use myth to explain the unexplainable. Hope you got the lesson. Hope you enjoyed it. I sure do doing this. This is fun. I enjoy it. And again, in closing, right thinkers, man, you all need to be 100, me 100 minus a day. So I never know that my right thinkers who understand the real definition, the true understanding of myths and what the purpose they are for have passed away. I'm looking at the myth of Ra and Aset. I decide that when I come back. I'll be back. I gotta go.